My name is Chioma, and for as long as I can remember, I was the family scapegoat. In every home, there is that one person everyone blames, whether guilty or not. That was me. If money went missing from the kitchen drawer, it was Chioma. If a plate broke, it was Chioma. If my younger cousins misbehaved somehow, it was still Chioma. My aunties would wag their fingers in my face, hissing, "You are always the problem." My uncles looked at me with disappointment. Even my own parents sometimes turned their backs on me, tired of defending a daughter everyone thought brought shame. The truth? I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't evil either. I was simply quiet, different, and unwilling to play by their rules of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Growing up in the busy city of Lagos, I often felt invisible until something went wrong. Then suddenly, all eyes turned on me, ready to accuse. I thought, it was bad as a child, but nothing could prepare me for what would happen when I became an adult. Because one day, I was accused of something so big, so terrible, that my entire family disowned me. I was cast out, mocked, and left with nothing. But 1 year later, I returned, and the secret I carried made them all bow their heads in shame. It all began with my cousin, Ifeanyi. He was the golden boy of the family, the one who could do no wrong. He was smart, handsome, and charming. Everyone adored him, while I was constantly compared and found lacking. But behind the mask, Ifeanyi was reckless. He had a weakness for fast money and faster women. While the family praised him, I knew the truth. One evening, a terrible scandal broke out. Money had gone missing from my uncle's company, millions of naira. The entire family gathered in the living room, tension thick in the air. My uncle shouted, demanding answers. And then Ifeanyi pointed at me. "It was Chioma," he said, coldly. "She stole the money." The room erupted. Gasps, curses, accusations. My auntie slapped me before I could even speak. My uncle shouted that I was a disgrace. I tried to defend myself, my voice trembling. "I didn't take anything. Why would I steal from my own family?" But no one listened. To them, it was easy. I was the scapegoat. I was always guilty. My mother wept quietly in the corner, unable to fight the storm. My father shook his head in disappointment. And just like that, they condemned me. By the next morning, I was thrown out of the house with nothing but a small bag of clothes. The days that followed were hell. I slept on a friend's couch for weeks, my name dragged through the mud. People whispered about me in the streets. "The thief," they called me. My job applications were rejected when word spread of the accusation. I had nothing. No money. No support. No family. But deep inside, I knew the truth. I knew Ifeanyi was the real thief. I just didn't have the proof, yet. So I made a decision. I would survive. And not only survive, I would rise. One day I would come back, and when I did, they would all see who I truly was. At first I worked menial jobs. Cleaning offices at night, washing clothes for neighbors, anything that paid even a little. It was humiliating, but I endured. I saved every naira I could, determined to build a new life. Then, one night while cleaning an office, I stumbled upon something that would change my destiny. It was a business seminar flyer, left forgotten on a desk. The words jumped out at me. "Learn digital skills. Build your future." I stared at it for a long time. Could this be my chance? I used half of my small savings to register. At the seminar, I learned about freelancing, digital marketing, and how the internet could connect me to clients worldwide. It wasn't easy at first. I struggled to understand, struggled to get clients. But I refused to give up. Night after night, I practiced. Day after day, I applied for jobs online. Slowly, small opportunities began trickling in, designing flyers, writing content, managing accounts, and soon, the money followed. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving, I was building. But while my star was rising, Ifeanyi's world was falling apart. I heard through whispers that he had squandered the stolen money. His flashy lifestyle crumbled, his so-called friends abandoned him, and soon he was drowning in debt. The golden boy of the family was now tarnished, and as fate would have it, I was about to be the one person who held his future and the family's reputation in my hands. Because the proof I needed? It finally came. 1 year later, I received an email from an international company I had worked with. They were expanding into Nigeria and wanted me to manage their accounts locally. As part of the process, they asked me to review background checks on potential partners. When I opened the file, my jaw dropped. There, in black and white, were documents showing that Ifeanyi had been flagged for fraud, money laundering, and theft. The very crime he had accused me of. The evidence was undeniable. I sat back in my chair, my hands trembling. This was it, the weapon I had been waiting for. The scapegoat was about to make her comeback. The day I received that file, something inside me shifted. For the first time in my life, I felt powerful. I wasn't the weak, voiceless Chioma they had mocked and cast aside. I had proof. Proof that could shatter the lies that destroyed me. Proof that could burn down the fake image my cousin had built. But I didn't rush. No, I had learned patience. A comeback isn't just about proving yourself right, it's about timing. So, I waited. The perfect opportunity came sooner than I expected. It was my uncle's 60th birthday. A grand celebration was planned in the family compound. Hundreds of guests, music, dancing, speeches. Everyone would be there. Uncles, aunties, cousins, distant relatives, even neighbors who had once spat at my feet. When the invitation reached me through my mother, I almost laughed. "They want me there?" My mother hesitated. Her voice was low, heavy with guilt. "Chioma, please come. I know things have been hard, but maybe this is a chance to make peace." Make peace. The words stung. How easy it was for them to say that after leaving me to rot. But still, I smiled at her and agreed. I'll be there. She didn't know the storm I was about to bring. On the day of the party, I arrived dressed in my finest. A flowing emerald gown that hugged my figure, golden earrings that caught the light, and confidence I had never worn before. Heads turned as I walked through the gate. Some people whispered, "Isn't that Chioma, the thief?" Others gasped at how much I had changed. My aunties stared, their faces tight with disapproval. My father's eyes softened with shame. And then, of course, there was Ifeanyi. He strutted across the yard in an expensive suit, trying to look important. But I saw it in his eyes. The flicker of fear when he noticed me. He hadn't expected me to come. The event went on with music and laughter, but under the surface, tension buzzed. People avoided me, pretending I wasn't there. I sat quietly, sipping my drink, waiting. Then the speeches began. One by one, relatives stood up to praise my uncle. Stories, jokes, blessings. Finally, Ifeanyi rose, adjusting his tie. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began with that fake charm, "it is an honor to stand before you today. My uncle has always been a role model, guiding me in business and life. He taught me integrity, honesty, and responsibility." I almost choked on my drink. Integrity, honesty, responsibility. I couldn't hold back anymore. I stood. My voice rang clear across the compound. "That's a lie." Gasps filled the air. All eyes turned to me. Ifeanyi froze, his smile cracking. "What did you say?" I stepped forward, my heels clicking on the tiled floor. "I said, you are a liar. And tonight, everyone will finally see the truth." The crowd murmured, whispers rising like a wave. My aunties shouted for me to sit down, but I ignored them. I pulled out the folder I had carried with me all evening. Slowly, deliberately, I held it up for all to see. These, I declared, are documents from an international investigation. They prove who the real thief is. The one who stole millions from my uncle's company. The one who betrayed this family. And it isn't me. I turned, my eyes locking on Ifeanyi. It's you. Chaos erupted. Voices shouting, chairs scraping, people standing. My uncle demanded to see the papers. My father rushed forward, his hands shaking as he grabbed the documents. He read in silence, his face growing darker with each line. Finally, he looked up, his voice breaking. It's true. Everything Chioma is saying. It's true. The B. Yard fell silent. Ifeanyi stammered. No, this is a setup. She forged those papers. He lunged forward, but security guards stepped in, holding him back. I stood tall, my voice steady. For years, you all called me the scapegoat. You threw me away without evidence, without a second thought. But here is the evidence. Here is the truth. My eyes swept across the faces of my family. Shocked, ashamed, guilty. You let an innocent person suffer while you protected a fraud. You all turned your backs on me. And now, the mask has fallen. My uncle collapsed into his chair, trembling with rage. My aunties wailed, clutching their heads. Guests whispered furiously, their eyes darting between me and Ifeanyi. For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't the scapegoat. Was the storm. And I wasn't done yet. Because what they didn't know was that I hadn't just exposed Ifeanyi. I had built a new empire for myself. An empire that made me stronger than anyone in that family could imagine. And tonight, they were going to see it. The compound was in chaos. My uncle shouted orders. Some people were trying to calm him down. Others rushed to surround Ifeanyi, who was sweating and shaking like a man whose world had just crumbled. I didn't move. I stood rooted, the center of the storm. For the first time in years, I wasn't the broken one. They were, but I wasn't finished. Before you all start shouting excuses, I said, my voice sharp as glass, let me make something clear. While you were busy pointing fingers at me, I was busy building myself back up. I walked slowly, deliberately, to the center of the gathering. Heads turned as I spoke, each word echoing louder. You left me with nothing. No family, no support, not even dignity. You called me a thief, a liar, a disgrace. You spat in my face. You laughed when I was starving. You celebrated when I was dragged away like a criminal. My mother covered her face, tears streaming down. My father stared at the ground, shame dripping from his silence. But I survived, I continued, my voice trembling with both pain and power. And while you abandoned me, strangers helped me. People who saw my worth, who believed in me. They gave me a chance when my own blood betrayed me. I turned back to Ifeanyi. His suit looked expensive, but his hands shook. You thought you destroyed me. You thought I would crawl away and die. But while you were busy stealing money, I was learning, working, building. And now, I own something bigger than your lies. Gasps spread through the crowd. Whispers rose. Own what? What's she talking about? I reached into my bag again and pulled out another file. This one wasn't about Ifeanyi's theft. It was about me. I handed it to my uncle. His hands trembled as he flipped through the pages. His eyes widened, his mouth falling open. This can't be, he stammered. I smiled coldly. Oh, but it is. Then I turned to the crowd. While you all cursed me, I became the majority shareholder of my uncle's rival company. I built partnerships abroad, worked harder than I ever had in my life, and today I stand before you, not as your scapegoat, but as a businesswoman who can crush everything you built. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. Ifeanyi screamed, "She's lying! She's bluffing!" But no one moved to defend him. My uncle sat back down, shaking his head in disbelief. "How did this happen?" he muttered. I looked, directly at him, my voice soft but cutting. "It happened because you chose to abandon me. You turned your back on the one person who would have stood by you no matter what. And in doing so, you created me, the woman who no longer needs this family." Gasps echoed again. Some of my cousins stared at me with envy, others with guilt. My aunties looked like they had swallowed knives. And then my father finally spoke, his voice weak. "Chioma, forgive us. We didn't know. We were blind." I shook my head slowly. "Blindness is no excuse for betrayal. You didn't even give me the chance to prove myself. You let lies destroy me." I stepped closer to him, my eyes burning. "And now, you will all live with the memory of what you did. Every time you see me rise higher than you ever imagined." By now, Ifeanyi had collapsed to his knees, begging, crying, swearing he didn't mean for things to go this far. But nobody listened. His mask was gone. And I stood taller than I ever had. For the first time, they all saw me. Not as a scapegoat, not as a disgrace, but as the storm that came back to wash away their lies. The party was dead silent. Music had stopped. Conversations had died. And all that remained was the sound of Ifeanyi sobbing at my feet. I stared down at him. For years, this man had walked proudly on my name, crushing me beneath his lies. And now, he was the one broken, begging for scraps of forgiveness. But forgiveness was not mine to give. I stepped back, raising my voice so every ear could hear. "You called me a scapegoat. You destroyed my name. But today, I stand here, and I am no longer your victim. I am the woman you underestimated. And this," I pointed at Ifeanyi, trembling in disgrace, "is the proof that truth cannot stay buried forever." Somewhere in the crowd, a voice shouted, "Chioma, we are sorry." Then another, "Forgive us." I turned slowly, scanning. Their faces, those same faces that once mocked me, spat at me, turned away when I cried. "Sorry?" I said, my laugh bitter. "Do you know what sorry looks like? Sorry is a hand that pulls you up when you're falling. Sorry is standing by you when the world points fingers. Sorry is believing in you even when the evidence isn't clear. None of you did that for me." My voice broke, but I didn't hide it. "So don't say sorry now. Say it to the woman I was when I begged you to believe me. That girl is dead. You buried her with your betrayal. The woman standing before you doesn't need your apologies." At that moment, I pulled out my phone. One click, and the documents I had revealed, both of Ifeanyi's crimes and my own company's rise, were sent to the press. Within minutes, phones buzzed across the yard. Screens lit up with breaking news. Headlines: "Businessman exposed." In major fraud scandal. Once rejected daughter emerges as CEO. I had timed it perfectly. My comeback wasn't just for this family, it was for the world. Ifeanyi lunged toward me, screaming, "You've ruined me." But I only looked down at him, calm as a queen. "No, Ifeanyi, you ruined yourself the day you chose to destroy me. This is just justice." Security dragged him away as cameras outside the compound flashed, reporters already gathering. Finally, I turned to my parents. My mother's face was drenched in tears. My father looked like a man who had aged 10 years in a single night. "Chioma," my father whispered, "please, can we start again?" I met his eyes for a long, heavy moment. Then I shook my head. "You had your chance to choose me? You didn't. Now I choose myself." With that, I walked out of the compound, my heels striking the ground like drums of victory. Behind me, the wails of betrayal, guilt, and regret filled the night. Ahead of me, The world opened wide, waiting for the woman they once called a scapegoat. Only now, I was unstoppable.